What's going on, my nerds and collectors alike? Today we are taking a look at the Hasbro Black Series Deluxe Boba Fett. Looking at his packaging here, we've got the nice green for Return of the Jedi. You can see him packed in with some of his accessories here. Looks like we got a couple of different blasters. We got a regular one and one after Luke cuts it in half. Bunch of flame effects, which are always good to have, especially for Mandalorians. Got his backpack in here, and helmet's a little squished, so we'll probably heat that up before we actually take a look at the figure. But, yeah, it's looking pretty good. We got a nice image here of Boba Fett from Return of the Jedi. See, he's got his braids and stuff there. It says Boba Fett. Got your warnings here. 4+, Hasbro Black Series. The top's just the window. This side, got nothing special, just says Hasbro Black Series. On the bottom, you got your barcodes, warnings, legalese, all that good stuff. On the back, you got your Boba Fett. Another image of him there. He is number 6 for the Return of the Jedi wave. Says, Boba Fett, with his customized Mandalorian armor, deadly weaponry, and silent demeanor, Boba Fett was one of the most feared bounty hunters in the galaxy. And for any of you who have seen The Mandalorian Season 2, he definitely gets to live up to that. Down here, please don't stick it in your mouth, as always. Danger, small pieces. So yeah, he's looking pretty good in there. Let's get him out and see what Boba Fett's got going on. Alright, and here we have Boba Fett out of his packaging. And as you might have already seen, I went ahead and added a little bit of heat to his helmet and fixed that up real quick. It's probably 20 seconds with a hairdryer. That is big sticking point for a lot of people right now. Pretty much the reason why they do it is they have a head sculpt underneath the helmet. They glue the helmet down while the plastic is still warm, and when they put it in the packaging, it gets malformed, and then you just have to apply heat and it'll fix itself when you get it out. Other than that, I really only have one little nitpick, and we'll get to that here soon. Other than that, I think this guy looks pretty great. His articulation is really well done. I do not have the original Black Series Boba Fett, or the archived one for that matter, to compare it to. But I have seen people's reviews of it, and compared to those ones, this guy looks fantastic. I think he's definitely the better figure here. We'll get to his weapon here in a minute. So, looking at some details here, so we've got his logo on his chest. He's got all his battle damage and his scuffs on his armor. He's got plenty of dings here. On his shoulder, you've got the Mythosaur logo, as all Mandalorians have. And you can see after some heat, his helmet looks just fine. Looks really good. He's got some scuffing all around. He's got Jedi braids and Wookiee braids, is what I believe George Lucas said those were. On his arm here, he's got a rocket, and he's got his flamethrower and his keypad here picked out in paint. Even down to his knees here, we've got scuffage on his codpiece and a ding on his codpiece, so good thing he was wearing that. He's got scuffs on his knee pads here. He's got his little rocket pieces down here picked out in paint. He's got his tools in his jumpsuit here. So, little knives and files and goodies like that. On his boots, he's got little spikes, which I actually do not know what those are for. So if you guys know, feel free to drop that down in the comments and inform me. Coming to the back here, we've got his jetpack on. I do know that this yellow is brighter yellow than it's supposed to be. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be the same color as his shoulder pads and his knee pads here. But I'm not too bothered by it. I still think it looks pretty good. It would have been nice to have the yellows match, but it's not a big deal to me. So you've got his jetpack picked out in a bunch of paint here. You've even got down here, like where the backblast for his rocket would come out of, so that way he doesn't burn up anything. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty good indeed. One thing that he could have used is Hasbro got his like base jumpsuit color like pretty much perfect. But he's a little backheavy with the jetpack, but he'll stand just fine. But with, you know, he's a little dirty by the time we get to Return of the Jedi, so a nice wash over the jumpsuit would look nice, but still think it looks pretty good. So getting into articulation, we'll go ahead and take that off. We'll get to that in a minute. This dude has a double dumbbell joint up in the neck, so we've got a dumbbell joint up at the top. We also have a dumbbell joint up at the bottom, and there is the Tamara Morrison head, if you can see that. So that is the reason why the helmet comes misformed. A lot of people have taken this head off, just heating it up, slowly peeling it off so the glue comes off of it, and then painting up the Tamara Morrison head. But I don't plan on doing that. Maybe if Hasbro drops the Mandalorian Season 2 look for Boba Fett, I might do that. But for Return of the Jedi version, I'm not going to bother. So he can look down and bury his chin, which is always nice. Can't look up as far, but if you know anything about the Black Series figures, depending on the neck orientation, pretty much wherever this line on the jumpsuit is facing is where he's going to have more articulation. So if you're wanting flight poses, just twist that neck around and should be fine. His rangefinder is actually on a hinge, so that comes down, and that looks pretty cool. I would be careful with that, though. It's a little bit thin, so when you're articulating that, try to move it more at the base instead of pulling from up here, just to ensure you don't bend this or cause any stress to the plastic. His arms can go up about that far before the overlay starts getting in the way, which this is a actual rubber overlay over top of his torso. So we'll get into that in a minute. It's very helpful, but his arms go up pretty far, pretty good. They go out at about 90. There actually is a butterfly joint inside, and because this is a rubber overlay, these actually articulate pretty well. They go a decent amount farther than quite a few of the figures that we've seen from the Black Series lately. And here's a sticking point, the other nitpick I had mentioned. So you can see here, just above the elbow, there is an extra kind of cup piece here, which I'm not upset about that. That's actually a good idea. What I'm upset about is the other arm. So this arm, when you bend the elbow, goes up past 90 like it's supposed to. And then there's a swivel at the elbow, and there's also a swivel at that cup piece. So the reason why they did that was on this arm, he has those hoses coming down from the jumpsuit, and these are a soft material, kind of like a rubbery plastic, but they actually stop his elbow from articulating any further than this on this side. So any further in that, and they would probably start to stress and tear. So they hinder it just a little tiny bit, and for a couple of poses it's kind of annoying, but overall it's not really been a huge issue. It's just a little nitpick of mine. So what they did that is cool though, so the reason why they have that cup on both sides is so instead of tearing these hoses when you try to articulate his arm for weapon holding poses, the hoses on here are attached to that cup. And so you can still turn his arm without actually causing extra stress to those hoses and tearing those off. So that is a very nice touch and greatly appreciated. I just wish that the sculpt for the hoses were just a little bit longer so we could have that extra clearance on there, but overall it's fine. Getting back into it, so his forearm here on the van brace, that is also on a swivel on both sides. So you can adjust that around, do what you need to. Both of his wrists are on a swivel. This wrist is hinged to go in and out, and you can move this van brace around to do what you need to if you want to extend that more out than in. So that's nice. You can move that around, get it out of the way, you know, do what you need to do with that. On this side, because this is his weapon holding hand, his is hinged to go up and down, as it should be, for all weapon-holding characters. So, if they hold a weapon in that hand, it should be hinged up and down. For the support hands, hinged in and out. Makes perfect sense to me. His diaphragm joint up in here, like I said, this is on an overlay, so he can bend back that far, make him look like he's got a gut. Which, and later he does, but hey, he's still badass. He can kick ass. He's fine. Bends forward a little less, but it wouldn't really have bent forward at all if it wasn't for this overlay being a softer rubber, so that's very nice. This belt is free-floating. It's not glued down anywhere, just so, pretty much it's so you have clearance for the articulation, which is fine by me. If you want to glue that down, you can. I know some people will probably be annoyed by that, but for me, it's not a big deal. The cod piece down here is also a soft rubber overlay, which goes up and around to both sides, so he can kick up almost 90. Can't really kick back too far, so he kicks back to there. Not bad. Kick out. Pretty good. And then he does have a thigh swivel that is just above the pouch on the jumpsuit there. So that's pretty well blended in. He does have single jointed knees, but they go back a little bit past 90, and they get the job done. And then he's got a swivel at those knees, and these knee pads here are a softer rubber as well. So they get out of the way for whatever you need to do. And then he's got ankle hinge that goes back really far, but are a little bit restricted by the jumpsuit. Still goes forward pretty good. And then, of course, he has his ankle pivot. So Boba Fett can move around and kick ass like a badass bounty hunter should. He can pretty much get into any of the poses that you kind of want a Boba Fett figure to get into. So getting into accessories here, so we're going to start with the jetpack. The jetpack has 3 pegs, and if you look at the back of Boba Fett, there's 3 slots. And I don't know, I think it's kind of cool that the little latches here poured into the hooks where they're supposed to be. I just think that's kind of a cool detail. So with the jetpack actually has a couple of things going on with it. So the missile comes separate in the package, so you can have it displayed like he's fired it. And that just plugs on in there. It's a little stiff, so be a little bit careful. And the jets down at the bottom are actually articulated. So they're on a little bit of a swivel. It is a little tight in there, so be careful. They are kind of a softer plastic, but not too soft. I would definitely try to articulate them from this ball piece here, instead of trying to move it from down here, just, you know, to ensure that you don't snap anything off. Just be careful with it, but they move around, so you can figure out where you want those to go. And before I put him on his back, he does come with 2 jet pieces here, which these seem to be individual sculpts from what I can tell. Very, very slightly different. I think one's, yeah. So you can see the one on the left is just ever so slightly longer. So these are 2 different sculpts, which is pretty cool. Hopefully we will see these again with some more Mandalorian figures. As you guys might know, Mando, when he came with his jetpack, he didn't come with any last accessories. So that was kind of a bummer. And with these, you can see they're just kind of on a, not really like a ball joint, but just kind of like a little peg. And they go ahead and plug in here. I definitely would hold on to the jet when you're pushing that in there, just so you don't stress the small plastic port. But they plug in there just fine. And then that can go on his back here. Just line up each peg. Give it a good push, and that's on there. You can shake him around, he's not going to fall off. So if you're a collector that likes to display your figures with their jetpacks and stuff, you can definitely have a stand hold his jetpack. He'll sit on it just fine. And as I said, these move so they can get out of the way. And that looks pretty good. Very nice to see Hasbro coming out with some accessory pieces like that. So go ahead and take these off. he does come with his regular blaster here, which is a little bit tricky to get in his hand, but he holds it nice and tight. And once you got it in there, looks really good. So this is just molded in a black plastic, but it does have some wear dry brushed over top of it, so it's got that brown dry brushing, which I think is a little too much. Probably could have benefited from having a little bit less here, so it looks kind of dirty, but sculpt is definitely looking pretty good. Looks like it was used with just a revolver there that George Lucas put a couple of pieces over top of, which is how a lot of things in Star Wars were. As you know, Stormtrooper blasters, a lot of the Empire's blasters, most of the weapons were just modified World War II weapons. So that's pretty cool. So he's got that, and he does also come with his blaster after Luke cuts it in half. And that does port together, but it does not port all the way in, so it still has that simulated effect of Luke just cut it. So you can either display it of like Luke has just cut it, or you can take it off and display it a little bit after he cuts it off. And this will also fit in his hand. It's the same grip sculpt. I just don't feel like putting it in there. But that's looking pretty cool. I think this would have been nice to have a little bit of an orange in there too, but with just the yellow, it still gives off a nice effect. Does what it needs to do. Boba Fett also comes with a grappling hook, which is a nice little silver sculpt here. And that's just got a line tied to it on each end, which doesn't look the greatest. I've seen a lot of people modify this with a little wire and some glue, which I will probably end up doing. But hey, it's nice to have some extra included pieces, so that just clips onto his wrist. And you have that. Doesn't stay on there too well, but hey, it's an extra, why not? And like I said, if you want to take a little bit of jewelry, wire, or something nice and thin, it is hollow on the inside, so just take some Loctite super glue or something and port that in there. And the last accessory he comes with, which is another very nice touch, let me go ahead and get that straightened out for you, is another flame piece, which this is molded for his flamethrower on his gauntlet. So what this is there's a little diagonal kind of cut there, and a little slot, and you can see inside there are two little molded divots, which will correlate with the two emitters here on his gauntlet. Move his wrist out of the way. So you're going to take the shorter end, so you're going to want it having short to long, and then long to short for the gauntlet. That plugs right on. And that holds really well. And that looks pretty cool. It doesn't really add any extra weight to him. It doesn't throw his balance off or anything at all. So that is a very nice addition. And I'm hoping that, wink wink nudge nudge, if Hasbro uses this body and makes it painted and has extra fabric for the Mandalorian Season 2 look, or the Book of Boba Fett look, which is more likely to happen, we get this piece again, because we definitely need some Mandalorians able to use their flamethrowers. That is a very nice addition. So we'll go ahead and get some comparisons going here. First up, we will have him next to Darth Vader, which he worked with for a very long time. And if you know, Boba Fett is a clone. So the theory is that Darth Vader actually keeps hiring Boba Fett because he reminds him of Captain Rex, which is pretty sad if you think about it. And we've got another bounty hunter here. This is the IG-11, but it's the same old as IG-88, which hopefully we'll get a redo of that figure. It's kind of short, kind of scrawny compared to the actual IG unit droids are supposed to be, but that looks pretty good together. And then we've got him here with a couple of stormtroopers. Well, the Gaming Greats Shadow Trooper and the Scout Trooper from the Archive series. Neither of them really like to stand too much. Let's see if we can fix that. Come on now. There we go, have him standing. Nope, not wanting to take it. I guess I'll just hold him. So, there's Boba Fett with the Stormtrooper. That's the old Stormtrooper mold. Sadly, I do not have the new Stormtrooper mold. And there he is next to a Scout Trooper. So they look pretty good. We'll have him with some Rebel scum here. So here he is next to a Hoth Rebel Trooper. And here he is next to Luke Skywalker in his Bespin outfit, because I do not currently have a Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. Luke is a good bit shorter than him, which I think is how it should be. Mark Hamill's only about 5'9", so that looks pretty good. Take these guys out of here. Next up, we'll have him with the Heavy Mandalorian, Paz Vizsla, and we'll have him with the first look we see Din Djarin in. See how those stack up together with some extra Mandalorians. Paz Vizsla is about a good head taller than he is, and nice and bulky as he should be, so those look pretty good together. If you want to get a couple of these Boba Fetts and do some customs, I'm sure they would work out pretty nice. Go ahead and get these guys out of here. And then we will get him with Beskar upgraded armor, Din Djarin. And Cara Dune, which we see him interact with quite a bit in the Mandalorian TV show. So those are looking pretty good together. I do have a couple of things for that Din Djarin on the way from OT Customs, so I might do a video on that when they show up. But for right now, those are looking pretty good together. I actually already have a OT Customs wired cape on there, which fits very nicely. Get these guys out of here, and I do want to show one last thing. So here is the Target exclusive Din Djarin with the head underneath there, but this is the one that I have the jetpack on currently. So with Din Djarin's jetpack, you can go ahead and port these in here. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the camera. That's my bad, guys. Which, they're kind of tight. I would definitely be careful, and they do stick out. So you're probably better off having some extra Iron Man blast effects, unless they make some specific ones for these if they do another Din. Which, knowing Hasbro, we probably will get a Season 3 Din Djarin with the Beskar Spear or something else when Season 3 rolls around. But in case you wanted to try that, that'll work. And overall, yeah, I like this figure a lot. The articulation's pretty good. He looks fantastic. The only, hiccups are those hoses on his elbow and his head being a little warped when you get it out of the package. But other than that, I think he looks good. He's a good size. Fits in really nice with the new stuff. And before I sign off here, I do want to say that this channel and all of its content is not for ages or audiences under 13 years old. Standard YouTube stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be safe, y'all.